The U.S. Census Bureau states that every second there are approximately 4 babies born into the world. As a new door is opened for these miracles to begin their lives, it may mean the end for others. Each second marks the death of one person in the United States.
Death is something that many of us are afraid of. We try to avoid it, but each day we face a battle with toxins, germs, injuries, illnesses, and catastrophes.
Most of the time, death is inescapable. It's something that no one can control. When an opportunity to prevent the death of another human being is given, though, should it be grasped, or should death be permitted at times? These questions introduce the beginning of a social movement that continues to run through the minds of people today, the right to life.
The term right to life is defined as the belief that every human has an essential right to live. In other words, the human being has every right not to be killed by another. Abortion, a widely known topic, happens to fall under this category, and though the exact origin of the right to life movement is unknown, it most likely emerged in 1971 during the Roe v. Wade trial.
Good evening. In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today legalized abortions. The majority in cases from Texas and Georgia said that the decision to end a pregnancy during the first 3 months belongs to the woman and her doctor, not the government. Thus, the anti-abortion laws of 46 states were rendered unconstitutional.
This dissenting. In effect, the court makes abortion subject only to the decision of the pregnant woman's doctor.
The right to life movement revolved greatly around the Roe v. Wade case. After the decision was made, many strong opinions and perspectives that pertain to abortion were brought out from the U.S. citizens. Although abortion wasn't the only issue during the right to life movement, a majority of the uproar that was aroused traced back directly to it, forming the foundation of the right to life movement. 2 main international organizations emerged from this plight, the pro-life and the pro-choice. Though the pro-life and pro-choice had the same overall goal of the right to life, the 2 organizations were quite different. Pro-choice advocates and campaigners firmly believed that a woman had the right to decide whether or not they wanted to resort to abortion. The fetus is not a human being with rights until it is born or until the mother confers rights on the fetus, said a pro-choice libertarians article. The organization felt that the decision to make abortion legal until viability was very appropriate because it decreased the chances of women going to desperate measures in order to rid themselves of their fetus. Another difference that marked the pro-choice organization from pro-life is that they held 3 beliefs: individual rights, reproductive freedom, and reproductive rights. Individual rights refer to the woman's right to determine whether or not she wanted to terminate her pregnancy. Reproductive freedom was the fact that couples and individuals could decide freely on the amount of children they wanted, along with the spacing between each child. Lastly, reproductive rights meant that the government should not be able to interfere or intrude during the decisions of women. This meant that the women themselves should be the only ones who decided when and whether or not they wanted to be a parent. Pro-life campaigners, on the other hand, believed that the fetus was a human being and therefore abortion was an act of murder. These campaigners then argued that abortion was not right due to the fact that the human fetus did not have a say in his or her lifespan. The ultimate goal of pro-life followers is to lobby the government into prohibiting abortion. Pro-life advocates were also more religious than their pro-choice counterparts. Oftentimes, the organizations would turn to the Bible to such answer more controversial questions such as when to deem an unborn child human. Because of how religion played into the pro-life belief, the organization expanded their campaign towards other topics such as birth control and other emergency contraceptives. In the eyes of pro-life followers, these mechanics were used to prevent pregnancy, and they were also a way of murder. And though the public had argued that the pro-life organization had encouraged out of ignorance for women to keep their children and care for them, the overall interest was not to burden the woman to raise the child until the age of 18, but until the child had emerged from the womb. From there, whether the mother wanted to place her child up for adoption or not was left to choice.
Many tactics from both organizations were used in order to not only reach out to both the public and government, but as to influence them as well. A common tactic that both sides used was protesting through picketing. A well-known protest event was when pro-life protesters targeted the National Abortion Federation. In 2007, the NAF received up to 11,113 reports of picketing. The National Abortion Federation was an organization that provided abortions. They were originally founded in the U.S. before expanding all over the world. Being worldwide, it allowed different countries to execute the abortion procedures on other women who desired the operation. Most picketing or protests often happen in front of clinics or facilities that provided abortion for women. But over many years, picketing guidelines have become more strict due to the government policies. Picketing has now been restricted to only shouting, carrying in signs that have appropriate pictures or words, and singing hymns, while on other levels, arson, vandalism, and threats of violence and more have been prohibited. One tactic that has been used by pro-life campaigners is the rescue operation. This was a tactic used to block ways for people who try to access and use facilities and clinics for abortion. Unfortunately, the government played a large role in the decision of how protesting should be done. The government had passed a very important restriction saying that campaigners may not block a person's path to reach the facility or clinic. This was not only a restriction, but an act that was signed by President Bill Clinton on May 26, 1994. It was called the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances Act. With abortion being worldwide, there have been two major events that have been put in play to influence the government to ban abortion. One event was the life chain, a technique that was used in the public. This was conducted in a single file line of people placed on the sidewalk holding signs that protested phrases such as "Abortion kills children," "Abortion hurts women," "Abortion stops the beating heart," and more. This was a tactic also done in silence due to a policy that prohibited participants from blocking pedestrians and roadways. Another tactic was the March for Life. It was created in dedication of the Roe v. Wade outcome by 30 pro-life advocates. The first march was on January 22, 1974, with a total of about 20,000 members. Pro-choice members have also tried many tactics to legalize abortion in every state to a certain extent. Protesters have taken part in events such as March for Women's Lives. Other tactics used by members of pro-choice were creating many organizations made up of women, like the National Organization for Women. It is the largest feminist organization with over 500,000 members.
Although 3 decades have already passed, the Right to Life movement is still alive in the minds of people worldwide. Campaigning and protesting has not come to an end, and neither has national debates in the White House. Pro-life advocates are currently working towards lobbying the United States government into prohibiting abortion, while the pro-choice are in the process of legalizing abortion in all states to one extent: viability. The amount of protesting done by these two organizations have been effective, drawing in much of society into supporting their causes. Just recently, on February 9, 2011, Douglas Johnson, legislative director of the National Right to Life organization, testified in front of the U.S. House of Representatives in support of the Protect Life Act. This act would amend the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act to modify special rules relating to the coverage of abortion services.
A positive event that occurred last year was on March 19th, when Congressman Bart Stupak and 9 other members of Congress introduced a resolution that would remove pro-abortion provisions from the Senate-passed health care bill. However, not all the attention and support was positive. A letter written to the pro-life organization in 1994 clearly showed